Hello friends, let's study the software process models. These are the some process models defined here, or you can we have a different spiral models like incremental and iterative models. So software development process models, you can say a software lifecycle is either descriptive or prescriptive characterization of software evaluation. What is prescriptive model? That describes how software systems should be developed, and descriptive models characterize how software systems are actually developed. Uses of development process models, that is as a means to organize, plan, staff, budget and schedule and manage the software projects. Perspective outline of the required set of documents to be produced as a basis for determining which software engineering tools and methodologies will be most appropriate, as a framework for analyzing and estimating patterns of resource allocation and consumption during the software lifecycle, as a comparative descriptive or prescriptive counts for how software systems comes to be the way they are, a basis for conducting empirical studies to determine what affects software productive cost and overall quality. So this is the use of development process models. Now you see the waterfall model. This is the basic model which is used normally, and these are the phases. Now the observation is that the following phase should not start until the previous phase has finished. In practice, the phases are overlapped and may return to the previous phase, so still widely used, especially on a large projects. Waterfall model pros and cons. The documentation is produced to each phase and it fits with engineering process models, and cons are it is inflexible partitioning of project into distinct stages. Commitment must be made at an early stage in the process, which makes it difficult to respond to the changing customer requirement. Now the evolutionary development model, you can see these are the two separate partition. There is a specification, development and validation. This is the one phase, and we are working with the initial versions, intermediate versions and final versions because it is evolutionary model. Now, there are two fundamental types of evolutionary development, exploratory and throwaway prototyping. The exploratory development, where the objective of the process is to work with the customer to explore the requirement and deliver a final system, and the development starts with the part of the system that are understood. The system evolves by adding new features proposed by the customer. Now, throwaway prototyping, where the objective of the evolutionary development process is to understand the customer's requirement and hence develop a better requirement definition for the system. The prototype concentrates on experimenting with the customer requirement that are poorly understood. Observation. It is used for requirement elicitation and validation. A working model of the final system is developed during the requirement. It is an iterative process, and prototype can be thrown away or evolved into the final system. Now, prototyping pros and cons. We can see here more effective than the waterfall approach, where there is immediate delivery is needed. The specification can be developed incrementally. As users develop a better understanding of their problem, this can be reflected in the software system. Now, cons are the process is not visible. If systems are developed quickly, it is not cost effective to produce documents that are reflect every version of the system, and systems are often poorly structured. Continual change tends to be corrupt the software structure. Now, incorporating software changes become increasingly difficult and costly. Now, the next is component-based software engineering, where we are getting the software specification, we are doing the component analysis, we are doing the modifications, system design with reuse, development and integration, and the system validation. Now, the pros and cons are it has obvious advantage of reducing the amount of software to be developed and so reduce the cost and risk, gives faster delivery, and cons are requirements compromises are inevitable and this may lead to a system that does not meet the real needs. Some control over the system evaluation is lost as a new version of the reusable components are not under the control of organization using them. This is incremental development model. You can see here, define the outline requirements, assign the requirements to increment, design the system architecture, develop system increment, validate increment, integrate increment, validate the system, and this is finally going repeatedly. Now the observations, you can see development and delivery is broken down into increments. With each increment, delivery part of the required function is given. The user requirements are prioritized and the highest priority requirements are included in yearly increments. and it is an iterative process. So next is a spiral model, which is more practically used, and it includes a risk analysis part, which makes it different from the other models. And it is starting the phases. The phases are working together. You can see this is 4 sections: the review, risk analysis, again making the prototype, simulations, concept iterations, developing, verifying the next level, and plan for the next one. The observations are: process is presented as a spiral rather than as a sequence of activities with backtracking. Each loop in the spiral represents a phase in the process. No fixed phase, such as specification or design. Loops in the spiral are chosen depending on what is required. Risks are explicitly assessed and resolved with throughout the process, and uses prototyping. Thank you.